Welcome back for another one of the Sundance Media Group Pod Snacks or podcasts. We're glad to have you here with us, and this particular show, we've brought in a special guest. And so without any further commentary, let's introduce from Interdrone, Mike Pehel. Mike, say hello to the Sundance Media Group crew.
Hi, everyone. Nice to be part of the podcast.
We're really glad you're here. So, Mike, folks know a lot about who we are, but they probably know very little about who you are. I'm sure they know what Interdrone is, but what's your role at Interdrone? Tell us a little bit about that.
So I stepped in as chair this year. It's my 6th year on the show because we had 1 year of lead up on year one. And I started out as just the marketing manager. But over time, because I was in charge of the news and just being on top of regulation and the technology shifts, I kind of became the voice of the show over time anyway. And now that the show has become so commercially focused and that we've added the regulatory perspective to the show last year and are expanding it this year, I became chair.
Well, congratulations for your new role. I know we've enjoyed working with you over the past few years, and now you're kind of the boss man.
It's been a journey, yeah.
So what did you want for Christmas this year, little boy? What kind of bribery works with you? No, it's been exciting to see the growth, and we've been at I don't know when you started attending Interdrone. For us, it was that very first year.
Yeah, this will be my second year.
Second year attending. Yep. Okay, so we've been there for all of the 5 years, and then we were very excited when we were asked to come in and be a part of the Interdrone team in the second year of the show, and I think that year we had 3 or 4 sessions. And the one thing that I remember the best was that I was kind of unknown to the folks at Interdrone. I mean, Ted kind of knew me and some of the other people that were there. But we walked into the first room, the morning session, and I kind of went, oh my gosh, there's a lot of seats in here. I can't, we're not going to fill this room. And then the room filled. And so the second session, it was a different room. We walked into that room, and we had a couple of people we were talking to from Interdrone kind of went, wait a second. We just went from massive ballroom to 40, 50, 60 seat classroom. I think we're going to have a problem. And the people that were running the rooms at the time said, no, don't worry about it. And we got maybe 1 minute into the session, and people were starting to complain because they were lying down the walls and along the back and kind of sitting in the aisle. And I think we all learned a few things that particular day. I don't think anybody anticipated that kind of excitement. And so, year 3 was a lot of fun. And then, last year we did, let's see, well, Brady, you came and you talked about construction, and you were up there with Richard Lopez.
Yes, with Richard, yes.
So what did that feel like, your first Interdrone, being on stage with a rock star like Richard Lopez?
It was hard because it was about an hour beforehand. Oh, by the way, Brady, I want you to go ahead and step up on stage with Richard Lopez. For what? What am I doing? Get thrown in at the last minute, but it actually turned out fantastic, and it was a great experience. Richard Lopez was excellent in helping keep me calm for the first engagement that I had. Right? He does have that effect, yes.
He does have that effect.
So it was scary, but it was a good experience, and that's kind of led me into doing some more.
And are you going to have Richard back this year?
Yeah, absolutely. Richard is part of the advisory board. He's my ear to the ground in construction, and he's got a lot to brag about this year. He got the first waiver for flight over people with a parachute, and if you listen to the podcast I did with him, you could hear the journey from the 333 days to where he is now, and he's always pressing forward and so humble at the same time.
He really is. Yeah. Have you seen any of his work? Some of the bigger works that he's doing?
Yeah, he's actually sent me a few videos and whatnot of the projects, and that's actually how their whole program got started, was just to capture marketing material or to help inspire potential clients for what could be done on their site. And to be where they are now, that just kind of shows how we went from pretty pictures to an actual aerial asset.
Well, and I think I think that's a perfect segue to the next question I was going to ask you. Is the first year that we had Interdrone, it was very much a show of kind of there were the FPV guys, and then there were the pretty picture guys, and that was it. And I watched it do a major 90-degree turn in the second year. So tell us a little bit about some of the growth and what is coming up in 2019.
Yeah, if it was a 90-degree turn in year 2, I think we ended up almost in the opposite direction by year 3, especially year 4, where we've been kind of driving towards commercial focus. And I like to think of the show now in terms of civilian airspace. So we're also thinking about national defense and security, but not defense in the sense of military, but just understanding that this is the civilian airspace. It has security concerns. There's regulatory concerns that go on top of how our businesses are run. So Interdrone is still a show where you can start your business, but it's also the place where you can get an entire crash course for how your aerial asset interacts with the entire national airspace.
You called it an aerial asset instead of tool. I find that interesting. Can you tell me a little bit more about why you define it that way? That's what we call it, but I'm curious. I've never heard anybody else use that term but us.
So if you're going to call a drone a tool, that's almost a limited perspective on it. And I like to think of it as in terms of it can be a toy, like an RC car, when used in a very limited respect. But when we're dealing with commercial usage, you need to think in aviation terms first, because when you're navigating 3D space, that means you're engaging with an entire different set of laws, different set of rules, and that defines what is capable within your commercial operation. And also, when you're conducting a commercial operation, you should be thinking in terms of liability that aren't the concern of a consumer or a prosumer video shooter.
So that runs a little bit counter to those that would say, oh, it'll never happen to me, or, oh, the FAA, they don't know what they're talking about, there's not that much going on up there, or, oh, come on, nobody really cares. Nobody's enforcing anything about the rules and the laws and so forth, so, why do I care? How do you reach that guy, and especially that guy who's maybe coming to Interdrone for the first time? Is there a way that we can inspire, I shouldn't say that guy, that individual, to recognize what's going on here?
Well, the tagline that's been coming up on the podcast pretty readily, and I feel comfortable just owning it right now, is that safety can't be proprietary, right? So everybody has to own safety, because without that, we can't have a safe airspace. If everybody was driving around drunk, we wouldn't have safe roads, right? So it's not to say that there won't be people who don't do that. There will be people who engage in that risk. But if it's all our concern how safe the sky is, we might have different visions of that. The innovators might say there's more flexibility. The regulators or traditional aviators might have fears that they need to have consoled before they open up. But we should all be pointing at safety and have that as our common vector.
I couldn't agree more. And given that our background comes out of aviation, whether we're flying the airplane or we're taking pictures out of the bottom of a Skymaster 210, or maybe we're jumping out of the airplanes, whatever it is, that's where we come from in this industry. And I've spoken with a lot of industry experts about it, and it just seems that there is the mindset of the true commercial pilot, if you will, that recognizes that he's a pilot as opposed to an operator. And I used to be really fixed about, let's quit calling them pilots, actually. Like the other day, we were in an operation where we were in a Delta airspace under a Bravo shelf, underneath yet military operation with some emergency flight operations coming into play. That's something that even a standard private pilot is going to struggle to capture and function in. Needless to say, I hope that there's a way that we can bring it forward. I know Interdrone is deeply, deeply interested and passionate about trying to drive some of that home with the people that are attending the show and working with us.
I just did a podcast with Chris Anderson, the drone trainer. Not Chris Anderson from 3DR, but the drone trainer. And this is a man that started not even knowing what the word drone meant. And now this is true. And now he has consummate knowledge of regulation all over the world from his conversations with pilots, and he's a very, very good steward of making sure that those pilots have the right information to operate safe and legally and efficiently, and also make their businesses run at an optimized level where they're making money. And I was really happy when I met him earlier this year, because that's honestly the vision of the show. Is it doesn't matter what level you're at, right? Sometimes the traditional aviation people get a little bit too down on the newbies, but the truth is we have to all come together in a spirit of education, because there's no aviation master race. This is an innovative industry. It is creating new use cases, and like our friend Richard Lopez, they invented those safety protocols as they built their program. But that didn't come at the sacrifice. Sometimes you think invention can come at the sacrifice at safety. It's like, no, they were thinking at safety at every point. And even then you miss it sometimes. But if you're not there, you're definitely not going to catch the mistake.
So, of course, the show is for anybody, right? Whether you're beginning or whether you're experienced. I mean, primarily it's for people who are experienced, but for anybody who's new, speaking about regulations, what does Interdrone offer for them to start to understand some of that regulation? Is there anyone they can talk to while they're there?
Yeah, so we have it at the highest level, right? So we'll have usually an FAA keynote, and that's been a tradition for years going on. And that'll give you the broadest perspective of the importance of safety, I suppose. But we also have our new policy day that's spearheaded by Christopher Carodi, who's a very well-respected consultant in the space. And he's brought in people from, DHS, FSDO in Nevada. I brought in Lorenzo Marzilli. Actually, Andy Thurling from New Air helped us bring in Lorenzo Marzilli from Swiss Foca. So you'll get actual access, in some cases, especially with Policy Day, in very close quarters to the people who are actually defining the regulation, and you'll get their perspective. Then we also have our Part 107 training, which this year is provided by Sundance Media Group. So thank you for participating in that way this year. And actually throughout the program, you'll get perspectives on how that regulation can affect your business, the limits of what operations you can conduct, and timelines for what you can expect in that regulation when it'll open up in certain ways, or what you need to do to get a specific waiver to open up your operation for you.
That's exciting. Oh, sorry.
I actually just another one, because we do have the keynote speakers and a lot of information about the regulations, but sometimes it's kind of scary to approach someone who you don't know. You don't know what they do exactly. Is there any way that you guys are bringing people together in specific verticals?
Yeah, so this year we added the Enterprise Connect, which is a vertical networking party. Now, what we realized is as the show got bigger, it became harder for somebody like you, let's say in the construction industry, to meet somebody else in the construction space. So we didn't want to leave that up to chance. So we invented the Enterprise Connect, which is vertical networking groups. So you'll get a good speaker in there. You'll be able to join over drinks with fellow professionals in your field. And yeah, we have other show features like that just bring in certain constituencies, certain groups together. For example, the Women in Drones Luncheon, which is hosted by Women and Drones from, that's Sharon Rossmark's team.
She rocks.
And yeah, Sharon's one of my favorite people on the planet. She's such an advocate for the show and such an advocate for actually everybody in the drone space. So she's got some big news coming on that down the pike, so stay tuned. But yeah, that's, a great, we've had that since year one, and it's kind of been a crowning jewel to get the show going.
Excellent. Well, one of the things that is exciting about Sharon is that luncheon. I mean, it's this opportunity to bring women together in a way that an industry that is historically unfriendly to females has really taken great strides forward. And I think last year they had well over a couple hundred women that were in the room there. Are you expecting that kind of a thing?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, so my media person, Rob Van Gool, is betting me to try and get 20% attendance for women, but I think we'll land at 15, which seems to be where we're at. So 15% of the Interdrone audience is women, but I think it's like 6 or 7% of the industry is. So we're very proud to be the place for women to meet.
Excellent. Are there any other special event happenings for any particular group like you've got happening with the Women in Drones group? Because there are so many different drone advocacy groups that are out there. I know that, for example, I know you've got CompTIA coming in this year. That's kind of exciting.
Yeah, and we're always happy to welcome new groups and constituencies. We have the AUVSI chapter meetup, which has been there year after year. We have our after-hour sessions where, for example, Drone Up has a great panel going this year. And of course, there's always the parties that the vendors throw. So I don't always know about all of them, but I'm sure if you're an attendee, you will know about all of them.
8 hours, bottle to throttle. Does that go
Those
for the guy?
sessions are great.
Right, right. Well, I know we've got some big name hitters coming, and that's one of the things that I think inspires a few people to come to Interdrone. And I don't want to get to the end of the show without mentioning some of the other big names that are there. I know that, for example, Drone Code and Lorenz Meyer or Arturian, and I think of Lorenz more from Drone Code, but of course Arturian, Romeo Dersher from DJI. Randall Warnes from FLIR, I'm sure, is going to be a speaker this year. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, all of them and more. We got Richard Lopez also too, and then Colin Snow, the drone analyst, Michael Blades from Frost and Sullivan. Jennifer Richter's usually on a session. In fact, it's hard for me, especially stepping in as chair, to separate friends of the show who are helping build the show from the speakers. And the program is 180 speakers strong, and they're all some of the top people in the world. 120 sessions, so and some of those are panels, so takes a big faculty.
Holy cow!
It takes a village to make an Interdrone.
Boy, that's not a village. That's a city. My hometown has 210 people. That's almost my whole hometown. You have on staff there. We know we're super excited. We've got. I know there's going to be some great exhibits. Of course, we're excited about having the AVOC, the Aerial Vehicle Operations Center, that's going to be on the show floor there. So from our side, one of the things that really bugs me about the regulatory day, pre-show regulatory day, is it conflicts with the session that I'm training all day, and I really want to go to that session.
It's okay. It's actually going to be recorded.
Oh, even better,
fantastic.
even better. And I think you're on the construction.
Construction, yep.
Construction.
I think it's the same time.
So, and we've got 107, and man, it's going to be a busy show on just for us alone. I'm hoping we're going to have some time to see the show floor, which brings up a real good point. Interdrone is definitely training. Is there time? Have you created a schedule where people are going to be able to breathe and actually see the show floor? Because how many vendors do you have? And I'm sure there's a couple hundred vendors.
Yeah, it's about 100 so far, I would say. We're on that path at least.
Okay.
The big thing is the schedule is designed around maximizing your times. So, like, you get out of the keynotes and it feeds right into the expo for about an hour and a half before you have to get back to the sessions. This is one of the things that we kind of actually changed this year. Used to be a little bit shorter and more stochastic, but the sessions are longer. They're 60 minutes, and
Nice.
The expo hall experience is longer, so you'll have plenty of time. It's not like you're being moved like sheep from place to place. So you can kind of stroll along and actually see what the drone industry is about.
Excellent.
Awesome. So I think one of my last things is how can people know more about Interdrone? Where can they go? Where can they visit? Is there anything that they can go watch?
Yeah, well, you could go to interdrone.com, and we got the news page there, but honestly, I think the best way to figure out what Interdrone is about is to listen to the Interdrone podcast or come to the show. The Interdrone podcast is free, so that might be a great place to start. You can see almost all of the great speakers that we'll have, or at least the same caliber of speakers that we have on the show. We have advisory board members, and just people doing great things in the industry. It's definitely worth a listen, and I think it's like having a conversation with those brilliant people.
Well, I think that's a really great idea. You know, there are a lot of shows in the UAS industry. This definitely is one of those few that you just absolutely don't want to miss because of the camaraderie of like people, whether they're newbies, and there's a very large percentage of newcomers. There's a very large percentage of if you can call anybody a veteran in this, roughly. Well, we started in this industry in 2011, so that's what 8-9 years.
Yeah.
But I guess if you're people who have been around for, are you a veteran if you've been around for longer than 4 years? Does that?
Yeah, we actually consider that. Our demographic is 4+ years because the show's only 5 years old, right? And we were working on it 6 years ago. I know there's some people in the industry that have been kind of trying to make it happen since before that, and thank you for their service. It took a long time for us to even be recognized.
Yeah. Well, Mike, I think we'd like to give you the opportunity to have the last word in the show here, and so you can give the summation to our viewers.
So, thank you for the opportunity to talk about the show, but the main thing I want to get across is that Interdrone is actually about the people. And in fact, despite the fact that we're talking about an automated systems industry, every bit of progress that we're going to make with drones over the next 5 years is going to start with people, whether it's from regulation to building the protocols, to building those pilot programs in those enterprises, to figuring out what we can still do with these things that we haven't thought of yet. That starts with the people, and that's one of my great bits of pride being chair of the show is having people like Douglas here who participate in the community, that go from the stage down to the networking hour and actually have the conversations and join the people together to solve these problems.
All right. Well, with that, I think we'll tell the folks thank you very much for watching this particular episode of our podcast, and be sure to subscribe down below. Be sure to go to interdrone.com and check out the show. Register for the show. If you're coming to the show, book your hotel now because it is a big event. And so until next time,
Fly safe.
thanks, Mike.